The third Law and Constitution Dialogue. Taking the conversation forward with her is Tarun Nangia, editor of Legally Speaking. And of course, we're going to be perhaps taking a little bit of a break from all the politics that we've been discussing all day long. Manjaree ji, thank you so much for joining us. Tarun, over to you.
Thank you so much. In fact, for the benefit, because we have an audience which in a sense is from the legal field, but we have a lot of audiences from diverse fields here today. I would like to give a bit of introduction about Ma'am Manjaree Chowdhary. Of course, she is GC, which other people would understand who are not in law, is legal head of Maruti Suzuki. I think there would be no Indian who would not know what Maruti Suzuki is. So she is the one who is the legal head. And one qualifier that you must know, that there are 20 top listed companies in India. Out of those 20 top listed companies, there is only one woman GC, and that is Manjaree Chowdhary. So that's quite an achievement. It is something that we must applaud. When I was researching, I found out that she's the only woman GC. So that's, and of course, ma'am, you worked, in USA, you were with General Electric, and Europe. Now you're working with Maruti. Also, when I was researching about you, I found out that you started off as a professor, an academic, then moved to a law firm, then you moved to an in-house role. So then you also now are the founding member of the General Counsel Association of India. So quite in one life, isn't it?
Thank you, Tarun, and thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, I seem to be a bit of an aberration today in this gathering, but we are as much lawyers as many of you sitting here in the audience and those who came up on the dais. We just chose to be in-house as opposed to litigating. I do have family that litigates, people in that. So yes, it's been quite a journey and very diverse from academics to law, but a very fulfilling and very satisfying journey. In-house counsels play a very huge role today, as opposed to what we were usually, used to seeing companies having a little legal cell where there was a lawyer sitting who was always used only to do litigation. And, if there's some matter, we go to court, take his support, help, usually would report to a CFO as opposed to the managing director of the company. Those times have changed, and over the last 10, 15 years, perhaps 20 now, and today the whole scenario is very different. I think it's also a lot to do with the advent of multinationals into India, and they brought in this culture. But I think a lot of the GDP that we contribute today is contributed mostly by the commercial sector in India, and the General Counsel has a huge role to play in ensuring that that is done in the best possible way. So I think the role of General Counsel has gone from being just a law advisor to being one of an effective and a strategic business partner to the MD and CEO, to the board, and to the senior management of any company. So they partake in decision making.
You're on television where millions of people would be watching you. So I would want to know from you two things, that the Indian economy is not what it used to be 15, 20 years ago. A much larger economy, a lot of complexity. Also, when you're heading the legal department of one of India's, not one of India's, the largest automobile company, what are the challenges and what are the learnings? Because this is a different role for you from General Electric, which is a different kind of company.
True. I think the role is always very challenging, and one of the things is trying to balance law with commercial exigencies, business exigencies. When you run a business, it's a profit-making organization, we all understand that, and the whole aim is that what do we do to further the profit of the organization or to take the business interests forward? And to match that with the regulatory regime of the area and the jurisdiction that we work in is and can be very challenging at times. And how do you navigate that, I think, is the single largest challenge that one faces. To do it effectively, to be solution oriented, to be providing the best possible solutions within the legal framework so that you ensure your companies remain on the right side of law. I think that's the biggest job that we have.
In fact, I think there are two people here in the audience who are more qualified than me to ask you questions. We have Professor Rajkumar, Vice Chancellor of Jindal Global University, and Senior Advocate Aman Lekhi, who I think if they ask you a question each, I think that would entail good, interesting responses. May I request both of you to ask a question each to Ma'am Manjaree Chowdhary? Can we get a mic for Professor Rajkumar and Senior Advocate Aman Lekhi? You can take my...
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, Tarun, and thank you for being part of this really thoughtful conversation. One of the things I wanted to ask you is that the entire world of, General Counsel office is a relatively newer phenomenon in India. Historically, I remember many years ago, if you look at, say, even the Tata Group, all of Tata's litigation was handled by one man by name Palkiwala.
Yes.
So we have come a long way in the Office of General Counsel. But then the fact remains that if you look at United States and even other jurisdictions, there is a far greater seriousness and a higher degree of attention paid to the Office of General Counsel, including their role and the responsibility that they undertake with regard to broader compliance and due diligence matters. When do you think we will be at a stage where promoters as well as companies, corporations and business enterprises in India will take the Office of General Counsel far more seriously, and the Council can actually play an even greater role than they are currently playing?
Great question, Dr. Rajkumar, and thank you for that. I think I'll break your question up in two parts, because there is a vast number of corporates today that have actually already arrived at the definition of the General Counsel's office that you're referring to, and General Counsels are playing a huge and a vital role. I can vouch for that. I have done it in General Electric, and now I'm doing it in Maruti Suzuki as well. And you'll be quite surprised that Maruti Suzuki, being a old PSU and now a Japanese organization, I think the role of the General Counsel is extremely valued and supports strategic decision making very effectively. But yes, we do see many corporations which still need to, ramp up and come up to speed on that. One of the things that can happen, and that is also because we founded the General Counsels Association of India primarily for that reason, because once you come to work in-house, your license is suspended and you do not sort of, fall into what they call the advocate under the Advocates Act. And that's something that we are now working towards getting rectified. I think it's high time it got done to bring that level of gravitas, to bring a privilege that is accorded to another, say it's anybody in a law firm or otherwise. The same privilege should happen to a General Counsel. It doesn't mean you have to go litigate in court. Litigators are there for it and we respect them for that. But it is all about bringing that level of, the level has already gone up. It is about bringing that recognition as a specialized stream of law. And I think by corporates, it's a chicken and egg story. So once the regulators look at it and make that necessary change, the view of the corporations, the ones who really need to catch up, also changes, and it is vice versa. So I think that's the next step.
Thank you. Over to Senior Advocate Aman Lekhi for a question.
Well, my question will be slightly unorthodox. You said you're qualified and virtually part of the legal community, but in a role of a General Counsel, so off the mainstream. And the myriad legal issues which are generally clouding news today and are part of the spectrum of news available, when you see or read about them and familiarize yourself with the controversy surrounding, do you at any point of time regret that you are off the mainstream and as the General Counsel not in a position to actively contribute to the development of those legal issues which may, to some extent, also have a bearing on the role which you play?
You know, that's a great question too. I don't think I have any regrets at all, not because I am a general counsel and I have to say it, but I think as you grow more senior and as you grow, we have associations and we've got trade associations where we work quite actively. That will surprise you, that even to work as think tanks for the government to, you know, kind of help to bridge that gap between when the regulator makes those regulations and when they get implemented. It is on the corporate world mostly that they get implemented on, but usually there is a little bit of gap which then you struggle with the regulator to kind of rectify. But the role of the general counsel is quite pivotal at that, and as part of think tanks we have a huge contribution to make, and I'm sure once we are able to take this next step with the blessings of the government and the regulator, I think there is a far greater path ahead for general counsels.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming in and in fact interacting. And see, generally general counsels, we invite judges, as you saw, Justice Suryakant was here, Salman Khurshid was here, so many. So GCs I'm happy that they are now coming out and speaking. Earlier it was limited to senior advocates, law firm managing partners and judges. I'm happy that you come, you're vocal. And of course, one last question before we end. You spoke about your role at the General Counsel Association of India. Could you say what you, in a sense, do there in about 30 seconds? What is your goal via that organization?
We just have primarily, we have 5 different goals, but the most prominent and significant one, the reason why we set this up, a few of us who are like-minded, was to bring about recognition to the role of the General Counsel as a specialized stream of law where we need to be at par with any other advocates, which we were when we started off. We had our license, and the way we look at chartered accountants or company secretaries, they don't lose their licenses. So it's all about bringing that level of parity, given the role has evolved over a passage of time. That's our first and most important goal.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Manjaree Chowdhary, General Counsel, Maruti Suzuki India Limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manjaree ji, for joining us at the 3rd Law and Constitution Dialogue. A huge round of applause for Manjaree Chowdhary, GC Maruti Suzuki India. I request Kartikeya Sharma ji to please present a token of our appreciation to Ms. Manjaree Chowdhary.